Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Matrix.
Do you want to know what it is?
Hello and welcome to the Road to the Matrix Resurrections. What do you want to watch is look back at the Wachowskis' iconic trilogy before we jack back into the Matrix again. I'm Ashley Hobley, the one, hosting this podcast. Joining me today is the Explosion Network's own operator, Don Blight.
Holy shit. How are you? That was some puns galore. Yep, very good. Hello.
And taking the red pill with us is Take My Tones, Simon Blackburn.
This is Pop My Pill, a metacast where two agents swap spoons and we find out if EMPs attract or react.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
Dylan is just overcome with punology.
Yes, there's a lot for the first minute.
Gets Trakt stuck in because there's lots of opportunities, I think, for puns in this week's discussion. So I thought maybe we'd kick things off. When was... how important is the Matrix trilogy to you? Like, obviously, a seminal number of films. They were only released in like a 5-year period. Like, me and Dylan were doing a bit of research before. Like, the two sequels came out in less than 8 months from each other, which is unheard of nowadays. So, Simon,
It was really weird at the time. I remember like someone said it at school, and this is like one of those things where someone tells you, and at school people bullshit all the time. And he's like, oh, your third one's meant to come out 6 months later. I'm like, yeah, right. And it did. And it was just the weirdest thing. It made me sort of devalue the third one for that factor. Like I felt like I was going into it that it was going to be rushed, even though that's sort of not how it is production-wise. But it was probably the first time I ever remember anything being like that in terms of spacing out of sequels.
yeah, absolutely. So Simon, obviously you're super keen to come in and talk about the Matrix. So what does the Matrix mean to you?
The Matrix is all about my love of spoons. No, not really. Basically, I just think it's one of those... It's so highly rated, but not to the point where I think it ever overstayed its welcome. Like, I feel like the core people that follow it are almost like this like cult status type following. There's an obvious, people like, oh, only the first one's the good one sort of deal. There is that division, but aside from that, there's generally like the people that are into the Matrix are really into it, and it's gonna be a bit of a nostalgia trip because this was the thing that, especially when the second one came out, and I was in high school, that like everyone that was like, all the year 10s and 11s and that, we're talking about it. We're talking about the twins and everything like that. And because, the first one came out 99, so I was in year 7, I sort of didn't really get to see it until it came out on rental. I didn't get to have enough of that shared experience because at the time it was sort of like above my quote unquote age grade, I guess. So this was a great chance. In my mind, I knew that I loved the first one. So it'd be a great chance to just go back and actually see it all these years later from the very start, as well as by the time we get to the third one, it will give me a good opportunity to actually properly rewatch that, because I felt like, again, I went into that with a different mindset and a bit like, it's just going to be too animated, too whatever. So when you presented this opportunity, especially in the lead up to this fourth one, which the trailer looks amazing, I had to get on board.
Cool. Dylan.
I've been trying to work out, I've got like fuzzy memories because I feel like I've watched it so I'm younger, so I definitely didn't watch it in the cinema. But I also feel like I maybe watched it, I feel like I watched it the year it released on VOD because my dad wouldn't shut up about it, but I'm also like, or did he discover it
VOD
later? I don't know, like the video on demand. No, the video, it was VHS. So I don't know.
I guess that technically is correct.
It was a VHS. But like I remember, like he really liked it, and like that was the thing. But in my mind, I actually don't know for sure if that was just me remembering it as him like maybe renting it a few years later after it released, but it was definitely before the second and third one had released. So like I watched it somewhere between VHS release, but before the second and third one had a VHS release. So somewhere in there, but I was definitely too young. But
there's
I
a
watched
chance that maybe, the memory of it got implanted into your brain.
That's also very, very true. That could also
fed
be
through your ab area.
Just fed straight in there, yes. Because I remember the one everyone in school liked who had seen it or whose parents let them watch it, like when I was in the time the sequel's out, I'm like, what? When were the sequels again? What year did they say they were?
2004.
2004. So I'm like just coming into
really?
Just coming into high school.
I thought it was 2003.
Because I think even in like grade 7,
2003.
there was like,
yeah, so it was.
Okay,
And what was 04, the Revolutions?
No, Revolutions was in November, I want to say.
Oh, at the end, yeah.
but that was
December,
cinema.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was cinema. So I didn't watch any of them in the cinema. So I'm definitely like, I got to add like a year for the VHS release sort of thing. Is trying to want to do. But yeah. So the people who were allowed to watch them in school, the twins was the sort of the coolest characters that everyone, especially at that age, thought was the coolest. The second film was the one that everyone loved the most, and of course the first one, and the hallway scene. And I definitely remember being in the playground and like doing like pretending to do like like all of this sort of shit as a kid because I thought that was the coolest thing ever. So yeah, The Matrix is definitely a film from my childhood, but I definitely shouldn't have been watching it and didn't fully appreciate a lot of elements of it, I guess. I have returned to the first one several times over the past couple of years. I did rewatch The Matrix only maybe like 3 years ago. And I've never rewatched the second or third one. I did rewatch the highway chase scene. Like I skipped straight to that after I watched the first one, but I never did a full rewatch. And so this will be interesting to watch them all in a row. I will say off the bat coming into this that the last time I did watch all of these, maybe like, it'll be probably close to 10 years ago at this point. I did a full like rewatch, probably when I brought a Blu-ray box set or something like that. I don't hate the third one as much as the quote unquote the internet, like I don't have my stick out to. I think it's a bit of a mess, but I actually don't mind it. So put that out there as I'm coming into this. But yeah, definitely, it's a seminal franchise. It sort of changed the movie industry, the way action movies were made, and certainly made Keanu Reeves into a star. I mean, without this movie, you don't have John Wick because literally the stunt team is the people who then go, "Hey, do you want to come do that?" So there's lots of things. It is a big part of the movie industry and Hollywood.
Yeah, absolutely. I too don't remember when I watched The Matrix. It's like some point. I'm pretty sure I watched it sometime between obviously it being released and like the sequels coming out. I do definitely remember going to see both of the sequel films with friends at the cinema. So even to the point where one of my friend's brothers like spoiled like part of the third movie. It's like that's maybe the first time I ever got spoiled about something. Seminal moment. Yeah, I think The Matrix is so interesting because it's kind of this cult movie, but it was super successful and like critically acclaimed. Like The Matrix won 4 Academy Awards. I'm pretty sure, I haven't checked, but I'm sure the other one's probably nominated as well for other technical stuff. But it's not like they were maligned films or anything. Obviously, we've heard in recent years that potentially other people are going to come in and do Matrix-related stories. Zach Penn was attached to something. Michael B. Jordan was rumored to be coming under Star. It looks like all that's been nixed, which is probably for the best. But yeah, I'm really keen to start this podcast journey. So might as well just jump straight into it. So please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about the plot themes and ending of this film. So if you haven't watched it, come back later. So with that said, let's jump to a discussion of The Matrix.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
What is happening to me?
The answer is out there, Neo. It's the question that drives us.
What is the Matrix?
The Matrix is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
They're watching you, Neo.
Human beings are a disease. You are a cancer of this planet. And we are the cure. Get me the hell out of here!
Directed by the Wachowskis, written by the Wachowskis, starring Keanu Reeves, Laurence Fishburne, Carrie-Anne Moss, Hugo Weaving, and Joe Pantoliano. I'm going with that. Thomas Anderson, a computer programmer, is led to fight an underground war against powerful computers who have constructed his entire reality with a system called the Matrix. Simon, what do you think of the Matrix?
So this was one of those things where I went in pretty confident that I would like it, because while obviously there is, a fair amount of CGI used, there's still a lot of practical effects, and particularly like, hand-to-hand combat, stuff like that. So I knew at least that part of it would have aged well. And I was actually very surprised. Like 1999, there's only really 2, maybe 3 particularly cringe moments from an effects standpoint. But when you're constantly thinking of 99, you think of other films from 99, you're like, man, that has aged so much better. Like, so at the time when it came out, that must have been mind-blowing. But the fact that it was just only a handful of very short scenes that were like, I was very impressed. And it had like the energy, the mystery, the pace, and everything that I still remember from it. So I was actually very pleased. This sounds, I guess, listening to your recent first Spider-Man film sort of thing, and how a couple of you, found it a bit more cringe than you remembered. This is the opposite. It very much lived up to my memories of it.
Awesome. Dylan.
Yeah, this is one of the all-time greats. It holds up because it's really, really good. I don't think there's anything really to fault here. I don't have any problems. It's as enjoyable every time I watch it. It's got these really great characters. It's got this really great pacing from the way everything's slowly revealed. The whole first act of slowly teasing out and revealing the characters, and then pulling away the curtain, and when Neo awakens in the real world, and the way the whole movie is just told. It has so many like cool moments as well, of course, with the characters, and just the way everything's shot, and the whole everyone just wearing black leather is absolutely ridiculous, but it's such a thing that makes these movies cool, because they just commit to such a ridiculous style that it makes the movie stand out. And
they use the Matrix to make black leather comfortable. That's probably what happened.
Yeah, and nowhere's hot when it doesn't really matter, I guess.
No sounds from like rubbing
and it's like
chafing.
Black leather without pushing too far into like BDSM territory. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's just black leather's
it's cool.
It's just
black
leather's
not
cool.
So much like sexy, I'm in pain black leather. So I was still, after all these years, thrilled with just some of those, like particularly like the group scenes where they're all like their own spin of like their the look and the shades and all the variations with all that sort of stuff. That like even after all this time and after living through an entire like sort of Matrix phase and people wearing those coats in public and stuff, and then obviously if you push into things like rave goths and that sort of thing, like kind of like half in and half out, that type of stuff, the fact that it's still cool and it doesn't feel tired just shows how well it's pulled off in the film.
Yeah.
And I mean, Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss, like without getting into BDSM territory, they're selling the black leather's hot thing, which is what they're supposed to be doing, so they're fine. The action scenes are really good. Obviously, it's easy to forget how crazy the bullet time effect, like how they used it in this film, and basically push forward this idea that like they didn't fully create it, obviously, but they did take it that step forward, and take it to where it is in this film. And then it's by the time you get to the end of the movie, you're like, what the fuck's going to happen next? And I can't imagine like watching this in the cinema in 1999 if I'd been old enough to go watch it and just be like, holy shit, he can fly. You know what I mean? Like it's such a like
what?
just
That's
a
the end
moment.
of the movie?
But 99
Never going
would
to
have
see
been,
anything from this again.
99 would have been particularly weird as well because it's like, what's going to happen next? And then there's also the impending doom of Y2K. So you're like, you don't really know what's going to happen. It's like,
That's
is
true.
it going to
That's a weird
turn
time.
stroke of midnight and then everyone's in the Matrix? You know, like, is that...
It's a weird time too for movies. Like this comes out, big cliffhanger and stuff. Meanwhile, you've just had Phantom Menace come out.
yeah.
Like, it's like such a weird thing. But no, it's really, really good. I don't think there's anything wrong with this movie at all.
The only thing that sucks about this film is not the film, but the binge app. I'm just going to put it out there. The binge app sucks. The scrubber for me to pick up where I left off was kind of like I needed to pull back a bit. It was disabled in both apps I was watching in. So I had to like cast it from the browser to the TV. It was just, what's going on? Like, it's just a crime. Anyway.
I watched it on Netflix, so I mean...
I watched a 4K Blu-ray disc I put in my physical media console.
Are you meaning to tell me that it was on Netflix this entire time and I didn't know? For fuck. Yeah. So you're meaning to tell me that I just paid for binge for a month to watch this and it was
Listen, you should check out Just Watch TV. Awesome resource.
Rookie mistake.
So many pages on the Explosion Network.
Well, now I can reinforce why I don't want to have the binge app. Anyway, but nonetheless, I'm here. Let's continue.
Just the fantastic movie. Like Simon said, like a lot of the visual effects still hold up. Like, even like the smaller stuff, like his mouth being covered up. That's like fucking scary, and it looks still great.
That still
like,
works. Yeah.
20 something years later. I think the thing I appreciate most is like kind of the world building that they do in this film, like incredibly quickly. Like obviously they're setting up the Matrix is actually a program that we're all living in, and I guess this movie kind of broke that idea or like popularized that potentially we're all living inside a simulation, and people have theorized since that that's what actually is happening and that kind of stuff. And then obviously all the stuff with, you know, the actual real world with the robots and the pods and the everything, and, you know.
Man, that whole like being birthed in the pod thing, it still hurts to watch it. Like after all this time, him like gasping and pulling out the freaking like cord and everything. It's just a very like sci-fi horror. And yeah, it still hits. I guess the only in that is probably only one of the cringe moments when the sort of bot first appears. It looks very much like, you know, very much purely 3D animation. But aside from that, just seeing him completely hairless, it's it's creepy. It works.
Very creepy. And like all the like bolts and shit all over your body, and then having to get it all cut out and stuff. It's like,
now I know how Frankenstein's monster feels. He was only angry because he was freaking out.
Did you know what I was doing?
He was the one, and we killed him. What's going on?
Keanu Reeves obviously plays Neo. I feel like at the start of this, I was like, that's a little on the nose, you know. His name's Neo. It's an anagram for one. It's like, you know,
it's crafty, man. Neo's such a good name, though. It's just like it sounds.
It is. It's like why you couldn't come up with a better name.
It sounds futuristic. Yeah, exactly, and it's much better than like Switch and things like that. Like some of the other members, like it sounds great for the central character. And I just like him in general, even just him like going to work and his whole like aesthetic and especially just the initial scene where he's getting the phone call and the whole, you know, getting out on the balcony and stuff, which still gives me kind of vertigo thinking to this day. The whole prospect of like looking over the edge and it being windy, like that many stress dreams about things like that. So that's very much come to life. But the only thing I found weird with that scene is like he gets grilled for coming late to work, and I completely forgot about the whole like window wipers sound being kind of like really off-putting, and his boss being like a, you know, I guess metaphor or whatever for Agent Smith, very much has a similar delivery, calling him, you know, Mr. Anderson and stuff. But I forgot that he's sitting down in his cubicle, and the guy comes up to him, and he's with the package delivery, and his computer's not even on. Like he's just sitting there looking like he's meant to be doing work, but the computer's not on. I don't know, it just seems random.
He just got in, that's why.
Yeah.
It's back in the day when all the computers were turned off at night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, I think, yeah, like Dylan kind of said earlier, this is kind of the movie that kind of blew Keanu Reeves' career up. Like,
Bona fide action hero, like from this point on. I mean,
yeah,
you had other things like A Scanner Darkly and things like that are like very much off kilter, but from this into John Wick, as you said, like you don't have John Wick without this. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think
he had speed, but
nobody remembers the name.
And it was like Point Break. If we don't mention that, Buddy will get annoyed. But I would say most people these days would say Keanu Reeves Matrix. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's also crazy to look back at some of the actors who were attached potentially to be Neo. Like, Brad Pitt, Val Kilmer, Leonardo DiCaprio.
I was waiting for that.
Nick Cage. Apparently, the Wachowskis' first choice was Johnny Depp. And then, of course, Will Smith turned down the role. Apparently, they even pitched it to Sandra Bullock.
Man, okay, all right.
Apparently, they pitched it to Sandra Bullock at one point. Potentially,
she would have looked awesome. Whether the central character or one of the team, like, I reckon she's got like strong facial features. Like she would have just looked tough. You know what I mean? So that'd be cool. Maybe they need like a miscongeniality Matrix crossover. Bird Box.
Maybe. But yeah, like his journey over the film and kind of self-discovery and like belief in one himself. I guess the thing that always bugs me about this is the Oracle specifically telling him he's not the one, but he is the one.
It's what he needed to hear.
Yes.
Morpheus explains. He says the Oracle only tells you what you need to hear, not what.
Because if anything,
see, negging like, people work sometimes.
But would it have been weird for she'd be like, "You are the one," and then he feels this overwhelming pressure of like, "Oh man, I am the one."
How am I supposed to
live
do
up to
this?
his expectations? Whereas it's more like, you know, having to save Morpheus, and he finds it within himself, and then he becomes fucking awesome at dodging shit. And yeah.
I mean, this isn't the first or last. Well, it's the first. This isn't the last time the Oracle says some shit that doesn't actually add up or isn't exactly right or true or anything like that. So this will be a theme.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, we got Carrie-Anne Moss's Trinity. I think that opening is very, very cool.
So good.
Like, especially the shot of her diving through that window.
The diving through the window is good. I think it's the rotation in the air looks a little bit off-putting at first, but the actual lead up to that and her landing and just the tents at the bottom of the stairs staring up, just like, get up, get up, get up. That's awesome. Love that scene. Rooftop to rooftop. It's perfect. Oh, even the chase again, with the truck to the telephone. That's always really, really tense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love Carrie-Anne Moss in this. This is like, if you
think of Carrie-Anne Moss, do you think of
if I think of Carrie-Anne Moss, it's 100% the Matrix.
The thing that I forgot is that the actor of Cypher and Carrie-Anne Moss are both in one of my favorite films, being Memento, which also came out around this time.
2001, I think.
Yeah. So like similar time, and it's just kind of like, and that's Christopher Nolan pre-huge budget.
It's his first movie,
and so not first, one before, but still they're very much like different from what you're associated with these days. But yeah, I guess they must have been kind of half it, sort of like actors around the time. Like I've seen Carrie-Anne Moss in maybe a couple of other things between then and now. But yeah, she is synonymous with Trinity for sure.
So she makes that level look really good. Of course, we got Laurence Fishburne as Morpheus. He was a character that would be interesting to look at throughout this series because obviously Laurence Fishburne is not returning as Morpheus in Resurrections. But yeah, I think another fantastic casting. Can't imagine anybody else in the role until I see Resurrections when we see Yaha portray him. But yeah,
his voice was a little bit higher than I remember when you first hear him on the phone. Because I see him, he's stocky, and you think in your head he's got a real deep voice. But I don't know, through the phone, it's just like, I was expecting like, "Hey, Mr. Anderson," like, come over, and he's just like, "Head over to the window."
Hey, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Anderson.
We'll
But
get to him in a
those
second.
glasses, I remember because they sold
Very
those.
cool.
Like the movie came out, like the armless glasses, and just when he used to get to a location, take them off, talk some shit, and then put them back on. And I'm thinking, how do these things not fall off? Like, is he manipulating the Matrix to keep them on his nose?
Magnets.
Yes.
You put magnets in the nostril and then
Makes sense.
Again, if I think of Laurence Fishburne, thinking of the Matrix.
Yeah. This is like just become the pinnacle for people's careers, and for in a good way, because it's not like I really like the Phantom Menace, as I know that well, particularly Dylan, you do, but then there's people like oh man, why am I forgetting her name? Naomi Portman, who kind of wanted to separate herself from that because it's like being typecast as that. Whereas this, it's like you'd be proud to be like, yeah, man, I was like in the Matrix.
I don't think anyone. Well, I don't. Not that I'm
Natalie
aware of, I don't
Portman,
think
what the hell
anyone
was
got
her name?
typecast out of the Matrix. Like, I don't think anyone's career was sort of derailed into just having to play the one role, which is good. Because I don't like Laurence Fishburne. This is what I think of for him, but he's done a variety of different roles. And
Yeah.
he'd done stuff prior to this as well. Like, I mean, he's had a long career. This was sort of the midpoint of it, I guess, around this point. But yeah, I mean, this is what I always think of. He's cool as fuck in this movie.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's sort of his thing. This first time you meet him, you're like, wow, this guy. He has like that presence that's needed to make that character work, to be like, he's really cool. You can tell he knows some shit. He's going to teach us some stuff. Let's go. Listen to this guy. Take the pill. Let's go. That shot of like that shot of him just doing the, the whole arm movement through to the like with his hands.
That whole training montage thing
montage
is like one of the coolest things ever. Particularly the stop trying to hit me and hit me. Like, I've quoted that so many times.
I just know that I know Kung Fu. Show me.
Yeah. and I love, this is when you're introduced to Keanu doing like the full body gesture type stuff. Almost like he's going to go into like some sort of Spanish dance routine. But it's great. I think in terms of you talking about careers, the only person whose career, I guess, depending on your view of Australian soaps, is Ada Nicodemu. Is this like the height of her career?
Weird.
Who at first, when she first says hi, she sounds very Australian, and then it's like fake American.
Hi.
Yeah. Oh, hi.
Oh, he should come out tonight.
Can you imagine like a Kath and Kim like parody of this? That'd be awesome.
But I always remember, because like that was another thing. I remember that was one thing I always remember about this movie, because as a kid, that was one of the things my dad loved to point out. He goes, "Hey, the girl, the white rabbit. She's the girl from Home and Away." Because we was watching Home and Away at the time. Like, my family would actually have it on, so I can't remember the character's name, but like, she's from Home and Away. Blah blah. Like all this stuff. Like, oh my god.
Wow.
Actually,
They look exactly the same. It's crazy.
No. I think it was mind blowing. It was mind blowing as a kid, because this was a massive movie around the world, and it was more like this was filmed in Australia. Like,
Yes,
this is,
yeah.
like, and that was the cool part. That was sort of the like I think that was what it was, being like, this was filmed here, and this is really cool, and it's got some Australian actors in it. And
Now everything's shot here.
I remember at the time. I remember it's like, she's from Home
Chris
and Away.
Hemsworth, Thor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Chris Hemsworth, Home and Away. Everything is Home and Away, or Neighbours. Margot Robbie Neighbours.
Yeah.
But I remember at the time, just when this came out, when I first saw it, everyone's like, "Oh, she's from Home and Away." I'm like, I think you'll find she was first in Heartbreak High. And it's like,
Oh,
just sit
that's
there
a big pull.
I'm like, at that time,
That's
I
probably
felt,
where she got the role from. Yeah.
I felt as important for repping Australian film and TV as Andrew from the Curb. Like, I was like Andrew before there was Andrew from the Curb. So there you go. Take that what you will.
Speaking of Australians, of course, we have Hugo Weaving as Asian Smith.
The best.
Fantastic accent, fantastic talking. Very menacing and threatening. And he would go on to be that constantly, kind of.
I think,
yeah.
Sorry, I just said one of the first scenes that you see with him and, well, when he says Mr. Anderson before he's technically Neo, and then he gives him the offer. He's like, "How about I give you the finger and you give me my phone call?" And when he goes, "I give you the finger," and Agent Smith is just like, like he does this real like perturbed but controlled like grunt, and it's like the coolest thing. That followed by when you see like the metal down the throat and he's yelling and it turns into like a digitized version. That always sticks with me too. Again, like the prospect of all of that, like, and it still hits in terms of just trying to show you and explain to you this like transition between Matrix and real world or whatever. And the fact that while it uses, liquefy effects and stuff like that, that has still actually aged well in that scene too.
Yeah, I may be a boring answer, but my legit favorite line from any of the Matrix movies is just hearing him just do the Mr. Anderson, like just the way he says it and delivers it throughout every movie. That is just, I was obsessed with it. I was used to try and do it as a kid and everything. So yeah,
especially the way that he does his sentences and he does the slowdowns, he does the pause, and then the change of tone, sort of stuff. It's just like it'll
be like
virus.
Mr. Anderson.
Like it's just it's
you may think
so
you're
good.
eating a cheeseburger, but are you really going to finish that? Like it's that whole thing. Yeah,
That's so good.
Yeah, I think he's obviously kind of an interesting character in that, he's this machine, but he desperately wants to not be in the Matrix anymore. He's just kind of sick of having to deal with these having these human-esque emotions to a certain degree. It's pretty interesting. And obviously,
we'll get there in the next film.
Yeah.
Speaking of machines, though, when they first show the Nebuchadnezzar and it's got like made in USA, I was just waiting for like some piss take one with like Nebuchadnezzar made in China or something, like just thinking that they could have put that in the parody.
They edited it.
Yeah,
I will say these AIs, they're kind of the next step from the T-1000. No, the 1000 from Terminator 2.
The OG term. Oh no, that's I can't remember the liquid one. Yeah,
Arnie's T-800, right?
Yeah. So maybe it is 1000. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I can't remember.
This is kind of the next step up. They can appear anywhere and fuck you up, taking over anybody and everybody. Like that chase sequence through the building, where he just takes the body of some human lady and throws a knife at Neo with like and stuff. Yeah, so
it's very unnerving. I mean, even though you do have like the whole taking over the body face warp thing hasn't aged particularly well, but because it happened so quick and because sometimes he does assume the body, but you don't see the transition, you just hear it. That's what makes it so scary. Like the homeless guy near the train tunnel and all that sort of stuff. It's just the fast pacing of that. That whole thing is amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about Cypher, who's kind of an interesting character in that, he's a human. He knows exactly what's happening, but he's like, man, this was dumb. I shouldn't have come on board. Why the fuck did I agree to this?
Man,
put me back into make me a battery again.
The amount of times after this film that we did that me and my brother do you scared the bejesus out of me and surprise asshole, like it's just I just him as a character, as like someone that you can, the way that they hint that he's not quite on board even from the very start, even just some of those
you think it's at first you just think it's jealousy.
Yeah, exactly, jealousy, and that is very much part of it, but then him, even when Neo returns and he like just sort of stares at Cypher, or actually no, when they're on the way to the Oracle actually, and he sort of looks at him like, you're up to something. I think it's pretty cool.
Someone I don't actually relate to this franchise fully, because if I think of him, I actually think of Bad Boys. So,
yeah, what are you going to do? Not everybody can be attached. But yeah, like obviously, one hell of a story. It's like, I think obviously the key sequence in this movie is probably the rescue of Morpheus, right? Like that whole sequence.
Well, prior to that, you got the whole wall sliding down the wall. They're in the wall. That's all very tense.
That's true.
Yeah,
the betrayal.
The key sequence.
The betrayal is pretty important. Yeah,
the betrayal. But I just kept thinking that where they're sliding down the wall and there's like bits of wall and stuff all floating. it sucks to be the person at the bottom. I'm thinking surely someone would have farted in the wall. Like I know Cypher sneezes, but like, or coughs, I mean. But you're just thinking like you're putting all that pressure and you're just trying to inch your way down. Someone's just going to be like, and you're like, oh, sorry, they're in the wall. Boom.
Wow.
I hope you can't get poisoned by asbestos.
It looks very
That way.
asbestos.
If you're in the Matrix, yeah.
And the wall like crumbles apart so easily. Like when he's sliding down and you can just see the trails down the wall.
Such a cheaply made building.
Yeah. But the key scene, I think, in this is just Morpheus doing his headbutt high up and landing down, like a full-on headbutt back and forth. So, and the sounds, the punches between him and Agent Smith are very weighty. Like they sound very strong and heavy and like they hurt. So there's that whole scene as well. And like, dusty, bleeding Morpheus, he looks broken, man. So yeah, that just the way that the directors and that could create that feeling of essentially something that's, and really put forth this idea of you can get hurt in the Matrix, you get hurt in the real world. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. Unfortunately, one of my favorite characters at the time being Mouse, because he's like the nerdy one. I was like, I relate to the nerdy one. And I mean, he's killed off quickly, but the way he goes out is pretty dope. I just love that double gun, just like spray fire. So yeah, no more ogling the woman in the red dress, unfortunately for him.
It's a shame she's stuck in a program for the rest of time, never to be loved.
Poor AI.
Poor AI. Yeah, I mean, that the rescue of Morpheus. It's like that was like a sequence that I like remember moment for moment, almost like them going through that like a metal detector and then just mowing everybody down, blowing up the elevator, and then Neo doing the bullet time
full air cartwheel with shooting at the same time. So this is what I need in terms of talking about first experiences. This is what I need to point out is that my he's about to turn 6-year-old son decides to join me from this point onwards, and I'm just like, a lot of violence, but cool tricks. And I was just
there's not really blood when they shoot people. There's only blood when Morpheus is like beat up.
And so from this point to the end, he's watching it with me, and then when it was done, he's like, I want to watch it again. Because he just loves the tricks, the flips, when Neo like flips out of the way of the train. Some of the super fast punches, especially the Neo and Agent Smith like shooting and circling at the same time. Like he was just like pretending to be Neo afterwards. I thought that's just like the coolest thing, that like a movie that's infinitely older than he is, and he's just like straight up into it. But you could tell to the point where like Neo gets hit in the mouth and stuff, and he starts bleeding, and he's like, "Oh, blood," sort of thing. So I was like, "Oh no, it's okay, it won't last long," and it didn't, thankfully. So now he's like, he wants to join me for the second and third one, because I was like, I have to watch the second one next weekend. He's like, "Oh yeah, we should do it." And I was like, I'm just trying to remember if there's anything dodgy in it that he can't see.
The third one has like a sex scene. In the rave, I think, that's the second one. I think.
Yeah.
Is it the second one? All right, the second one has that. Other than that, I don't recall if there's like actual blood or...
No. I know he's going to love the twins and the car chase. He'll love all that. Definitely.
Yeah.
So there you go, kid-friendly. And then I had to explain to him what ratings were. I was like, so I'm not sure this is M-rated. What does rated mean? And then I pulled out the DVD drawer. I'm like, here's G, here's PG, here's M. I explained MA, and then I was like pointing to all the DVDs, and I was like, now which ones can you watch? He's like, not this one, it's for big people. And it's like the MA one, because it's got the nasty red
Is it? Funny side tangent, but it's like when I used watching stuff as a kid, because it was old like DVDs or VHSs or whatever, like growing up, and they all had that trailer. Like they used to have the thing at the start, that
with the family
advert that's... Yeah, it showed you like the ratings. It would have like a thing for Bugs Life and be like, this is G. It had like a trailer, and then it would have something from like towards the end, it would have like American Psycho and be like, this is MA or whatever. Like, and it had something for R, which is I can't remember the name. It's like
one, I think.
It's a horror movie where it's like this woman running around with a chainsaw. It's like Eden Lake or something.
I think you're watching the updated version of that because there was one beforehand which had like the family looking up at the TV, and then like there's like the swearing and the mum puts their hands over the ears of the daughter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's like the precursor to. But
I might have watched it, but yeah, the one I remember the most had like, it's like Bucks Life or something, I think. But yeah, it's like you don't get that now. Like that's how I saw it.
Exactly.
What ratings and stuff. Yeah.
I just want to give shout out to Tank. Like, I reckon he's just such a cool guy. Like the whole thing of Cypher killing Tank and Dozer, I was just like, oh my god, that whole thing, like the aesthetic of what they're wearing, like the sort of scrappy material, the lightning sort of style shot, and it has a very Star Wars feel to it. Like you're picturing someone inside like a ship in Star Wars, and so I was kind of, this is like a cool vibe. But like the Tank revenge, like. Whatever he says, he's like, take this motherfucker, and he just blasts them away. It just reminds me of some like Yoda Palpatine sort of stuff. But yeah, he's just such an intense guy as well. Like he's jacked, but he's like one of those guys that looks like he just smiles and veins just appear. But he's also so friendly, and so I just sort of like his role in it, considering they kill off Switch and what's the other guy called? Guy drives the car at the start. APOC, that's it. Yeah, so they're like killed off very easily, and that's all quite dramatic as well. But that was also a quote that me and my siblings used to do all the time. You know, like when you get a movie quote and then you say it so many times you exaggerate it to the point that it doesn't sound like the original. It's when Switch dies and she says, "Not like this." Like me and my sister brought it to the point where we would go, "Not like this," and then like. I actually watched it. I was like, man, she's just like, not like this. And she dies. And I just was sitting there laughing at how hilariously over the top we accentuated that. So yeah, that's what nostalgia will do to you.
All right. I guess bringing it back to the film. How did Neo not die in this movie is the question. Do you think he did die and was brought back, or like what's the go there? Because he gets shot like 6 times in the chest.
I mean, it is cool, the whole like love will bring you back thing.
I guess, yeah.
It's effective. Kiss used was effective. Yeah, I know it's pretty brutal because like, and at the time, again, like my son's watching with me and he's like, "Oh no, he's dead," sort of thing. I was like, wait. I'm like, they're gonna kiss, and he's like, "Yuck!" And then they kiss, and then he comes alive. He's like, "It worked."
This commentary,
yeah. I feel you're talking about the rescue Morpheus scene, and there's just one bit that I find hilarious though. It's just when he gets shot in the leg and you get the blood in the water, and then just him tripping out the window. I don't know. It looks accidental, and that's what makes it hilarious. It's just one of those little things, as well as the one where that guy in the Matrix gets his phone taken. He's like, "That guy took my phone." Like it, I don't know. I find like the odd, stupid little like quotes and stuff along the way funny. Yeah,
it is an awkward trip.
Yes.
It is.
Although, did you ever think that helicopter gun, right? I mean, either his aim is really good or like Morpheus is really lucky because he's just like firing all over the place and he doesn't hit Morpheus at all.
No, his aim's really good. That's how I take it.
I just kind of gather that those guns are really like shaken all over the place and sprayed all over the place sort of thing.
He can also jump between buildings.
Sorry.
I mean,
so I feel like it's like if you can jump between buildings, I think controlling an uncontrollable gun is yeah.
This is true.
Yeah.
We'll allow it.
We'll say that helicopter into the building still looks pretty good.
The glass shattering thing.
Yeah.
The glass shatter looks good. The liquefy at the time was mind blowing, but it's the shatter looks good with the liquefier's bit. But I think this is towards the end is where you maybe get a little bit more of the sort of aging of effects, like the green screen's pretty obvious when they're sort of floating through the air, hanging from the helicopter and things like that. But because it's so quick, it doesn't matter too much. Like again, like the agents hacking the body, like the face morph and stuff. But really, I think the only one that I wish that they could have done differently is just the finale, the end of Agent Smith. I I wish that was maybe he like imploded or something, so it's less cheesy looking now. Way later, but the whole diving into him part is pretty cool though.
Yeah, it was necessary. Yeah, I guess we get to the end. Neo's the one. He's flying around like Superman. Everybody's happy. He's gonna save the day. He's gonna save everybody in the Matrix.
Before that, you get like the coolest ending sequence. Rage Against the Machine wake up, him like slow-mo strutting around. It's just bad. It's just like pure badassery, and it still rocks.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing I appreciate about the Matrix is like all the symbolism and everything that's kind of throughout the film. I don't think we need to get into all of it, but like, there's a lot of like, there's books about the use of mythology and religion in the Matrix and the philosophy and that kind of stuff. I think one of the more interesting things more recently is, especially with the Wachowskis coming out as transgender, like the Matrix kind of being viewed through that lens of, somebody realizing they're not right, in their own bodies and that kind of stuff. Even to the extent where apparently in an early draft, one of the characters was meant to be like
a switch.
He was meant to be a woman in the Matrix, and then turns out to be a man outside of the Matrix. Mm-hmm. That kind of stuff. So yeah, I think it's pretty interesting, and obviously it'd be interesting to see if they like touch on that at all in
the new one. Yeah, that's what
in the new one. Yeah.
Yeah. The one question I had was going to have for you guys, just coming back to one of the sequences. Obviously, she's like, I want to fly a helicopter. Loads flying the helicopter. If there were any immediate skills that you just want loaded into you, what do you reckon you would have asked for?
I think instrument playing. They'd be like,
really?
Just know exactly how to play one instrument.
You could like
have that loaded in straight
ask
away.
for it in Napoleon Dynamite style, but I want instrument playing skills, bow hunting skills.
Bow hunting skills second on the list.
I reckon something that kind of definitely relates to the Matrix. It'd be cool just for, say, my job to be like, I want to learn everything in there is about JavaScript and Swift and Python and all these like coding languages, like tick, 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 just load it up. That'd be pretty sweet.
What about you, John?
Yeah. I was trying to think, like, I'd either have to pick something that's like just really not a lot of people know, so it's just like easy money, or I think just inject everything about like developing an app or whatever you want to call that in my head.
Yeah, coding.
Yeah.
Or I want the skills to be able to easily take down all the crypto bros. Just like
that takes too many things.
I want to out crypto the crypto bros.
The bad thing about the Matrix is obviously brought up this red pill blue pill thing, which has been distorted to
between
terribly
Trump
in the
members
essence,
and Elon Musk, and then the Wachowskis telling him to fuck off, which is one of the coolest things.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'd love to be like, make me I want to have top level F1 driving skills.
No, every language would be pretty useful.
That'd be useful.
That would be on the list as well. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about the Matrix? From the Matrix?
Just holds up really well. I mean, obviously we'll get into the second and the third, but I just can't wait to see where they go with the fourth one, primarily because you get like peak digital green black, in the Matrix-ness with the third one, whereas the fourth one looks very much back in reality, per se. And so just that aesthetic, like bringing it back, because I feel like from the first to the third, it gets progressively greener, essentially. And so this first one's got like just that great, like the green tinge is there, like that lighting in reality, and then in the Matrix it's like amped up, but it's sort of like, just progressively goes that way. So I think that's probably what I like the most about the first one, is just that balance of the aesthetics. And so I guess, and just not really knowing where the story is going to go. Like, it was wrapped up with the third one. So I'm just going to go in fresh, not look up anything about it. I don't even want to see another trailer. Just give it to me.
Dylan, any closing thoughts or anything else you want to talk about?
Music's good.
Music is good.
I don't know if I said that. Otherwise, I think we've covered.
Pretty much
I think
everything.
we've covered
Cool.
everything. Yeah.
I like the way he first goes to the club and he meets Trinity and they're playing Rob Zombie Dracula, but then it like blends into Prodigy, I believe. And I just like the way that happens without you even hearing it. Like it's just in the background and suddenly like, oh, hey, I know this song. So yeah, very much.
That's
It was a
it.
good
That's how you
DJ.
can-
It was a good DJ.
Yeah.
That's how you can tell it's aged so much. You know, it's like super rocky metal music then. Now it'd be just hip hop. In a
No,
club.
I mean, it's still going to be very much industrial for sure. But if there's any like auto-tuned rapping over the top, I'm out. I'm just going to walk out of the cinema. Like I'm done with this shit.
I was about to say an updated version. It would have to actually be more. I don't know, like that dubstep
Electro,
sound,
yeah.
like would actually fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they could maybe push it to some sort of like Breathing the Horizon type stuff where it's like the two worlds.
You can have
meet.
that as well. Like you have a mix. I feel like you can have that and that's still fine. But if you want to update, like instead of the Prodigy, you'd have to have more, like Skrillex or some shit.
Yeah, or even what are those names? I forget. Yeah. Anyway, I totally know what you mean. Although it is interesting though because with the first one ending on Rage, which is a very organic band, like there's nothing digital about them. It is definitely gonna be interesting where they go because I mean, just the general tone and setting of the score and stuff with things like John Wick works so well. So yeah, I'm hoping that can kind of push a bit more of the rock guitar factor in there to kind of like make it to try. I'm just embracing myself for just the influx of John Wick comparisons purely based on what Keanu looks like. And so I just want.
Well, people already did that when the trailer came out.
Yeah,
People were
exactly.
like, oh my god, this looks like a John Wick ripoff.
Yeah.
What is this Matrix stuff?
Yes, yeah. Cool. No, I'm amped. I can't wait to watch the second one now before next episode. Because I definitely have fond memories of that. That was that type of one where you're in high school and it's like then all me and my friends loved Monica Bellucci in it, Persephone. Everyone's like, oh my god. That was like the it factor at the time.
Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So let us know what you think of The Matrix or what you're hoping for from Matrix Resurrections by going to explosion.com/Twitter or explosion.com/Discord. Simon, where can people find you on the internet?
On Twitter @PrecisePath. And if you want to hear about any of my last sort of podcasting efforts, which is making its way back, just search Take My Tone in your podcast player.
All right. Leave Take My Tone or us here at What Do You Want a review on Apple Podcasts or on Podchaser, or tell people about our shows. And if you like this episode, also with $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosion.com/support and buy us a coffee. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time, keep watching stuff, I guess.
Welcome to the real world.